Hello, everyone. It's Michelle Maher here, and I'm here this morning with Lisa Bartello. Lisa, do you want to just give us some information as to who you are and what you do?
Well, the last 15 years, I've been a real estate agent, but I guess what happened, some crazy things happened in my life. So it turns out that I'm quite an incredible intuitive. And in the last, I guess, 6 months, it's really become more of a channel. I don't know if people are familiar with Esther Hicks, but really I'm a portal for living light beings. So, any information and anything that comes through me is kind of not really me. It's just kind of channeling through me.
Oh, that's great. That's why I wanted to have you on here to talk to us because, as we know, we're in the middle of this difficult situation, and I myself felt compelled to create this group as a safe space to come together as community after I got really sucked into the whole fear rabbit hole, which started on I guess a March, what was it? March 12th, the Thursday. Yeah. The Thursday afternoon, I was actually at a board meeting in the morning. Everything we were talking about, the chance of this virus coming and stopping our business, that kind of thing. And then Thursday afternoon, when the NBA canceled their season or suspended their season indefinitely, and then other things were canceled and canceled and canceled. And I found that everything, like Facebook just went downhill. Everything was negative. The feed, I was getting texts from people. They were just glued to CB24 watching the news and everything. It was just all fear, 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 fear. And I found that more fear you can get, it goes into panic, right? And more panic breeds more panic. So I just wanted a safe space to come together and think about why is this happening? And it's not happening to us, but rather it's happening for us. And that's where I wanted to speak to you about how the world before this, I found we were just always so divisive, arguing, such extreme opposite ends of the spectrum. You couldn't even have a civil discussion with anyone because it was always like you against them and that kind of thing. And everything just seemed to be so out of balance. So that's why I wanted to speak to you to see what your perspective is on this whole thing.
Well, I mean, I really commend you because you're awake. You know what vibration you were holding and what was upsetting you, and that's the perfect solution in whatever form it takes shape from. So, that's exactly when we realize we're low and we're sort of in this vibration of fear and we're being exposed to nothing, and Facebook is an interesting kind of phenomena because our subconscious mind thinks in pictures, so as the visual is picturing, I've developed this funny thing. I shouldn't say funny, I don't know what it is, but when I keep seeing negative posts from people all the time, but they might be my loved ones or, and they're exactly what you say, divisive, because there are no polarities. Like there are no arguments on this earth that are polarities, and people understanding that is great, but I hit the snooze button now, right? It's like snooze them for 30 days.
Yes.
So,
That's become a very useful tool on Facebook.
yes,
That's for
I
sure.
know. And people don't understand, okay, you don't have to necessarily, but I mean, we get to dictate what our brain is exposed to. And whatever, regardless, it's always, whether there's coronavirus or not, right? It's always shaping how we live and our thoughts and, our vibration. I always use the word vibration, but we are energy, right? Our cells are our movement, right? We have, I don't know, trillions of cells, 70 trillion cells in our body, and our well-being is completely contingent on how they regenerate. Like that's our existence. So, I mean, there's so many different ways, and Canada in particular, I like to think we're a little bit more conscious here, a little bit more awake, but our brain we do have these limited thoughts, right? We live in this bubble, right? They say, I
Right.
don't know if anybody's ever been to Landmark, their example is always right. They show a circle and then they put a dot on it and they say, you know, this is how much you know. And you think to yourself, no, I know way more than that, but we really don't, right? If we knew, we would be tapping into our brain and understanding something like a virus, right? Is, you know, it's on the scale of healing and well-being. It's, you know, just about the lowest thing. Um, and that's not to discredit, you know, the people that are passing away.
Right.
Everything is relative, but you know, this is the earth has transitioned into the fifth dimension. I heard a date that really resonated with me. It was September 12th, 2018. So the earth has been doing all these things to transition to a higher dimension and away from the 3D dimension. So we've felt the pains of it. This last 4 years has been, you know, I like the term I heard from Lee Harris. It's a 4-year arc. So a lot of us went through a lot of shit the last 4 years, and it was to prepare us for a higher consciousness, right? Because the only way we can rise in consciousness and rise with basically with the vibration of the earth is to go through things like, you know, that are, you know, traumatic, and, you know, things that we perceive as suffering. And but that's, you know, of course, in retrospect, the only way we've ever learned anything is through our trauma, through our quote unquote suffering. I don't like that word suffering, but that's how we always perceive pain. So that's what's
Right.
happening right now, but on a collective level. So at the end of the day, it's an amazing thing. Right now, we're learning to become empowered within, which is one of the most important things, right? It's like learning our power never lies external to us, right? It doesn't rely in external sources of any kind more than it relies on ourselves. And
Right.
and you know, we have you know, we're benevolent beings. We have the ability to take responsibility for ourselves in our healthcare, right? Ourselves in our body, and you know, the synthesis of all those pieces. So there's just there's so many exciting things. I don't know. One day I was in a course last weekend and I walked out and it was just like, okay, this is happening. We're rising in consciousness on a collective level. The earth is getting the most tremendous, unprecedented healing with the planes being grounded, right? Lack of radiation.
Right.
Right. We noticed it in the sky. My daughter and I were driving the other day and she's like, take a picture, look at the sky. And I said, that's not a coincidence. Look at the sky, because there's so few cars, right? Emissions. If you've looked at the pollution maps of the world, right? It's gone
Oh,
down
yes.
significantly. So when the earth heals, we heal, right? There's a symbiosis between us and the earth. Our brains, when we're in alpha state, which is our connected, right? That's our connected state. That's when I used to guide meditation for about 6 years. That's why I ended up calling my business all the time Soul Connection, because I used to sit and I'd watch people meditate and they would connect with their soul when they slowed their brain waves down, right? So we're naturally in beta, which is, you know, it's monkey mind. It's fight
Yeah.
or flight in our brain, right? It's breathing like we're being chased by a bear, which I did for probably the first 44 years of my life.
Yeah.
And when we slow down to alpha state and um, in our equilibrium or in our harmony of alpha state, 7.83 hertz, that's also the same vibration or as the core of the earth, you know, the Schumann resonance, or, you know, I'm not sure which, but I follow and read everything like a junkie, but we're exactly like the earth. So the earth is getting a cleansing right now, and so are we. You know, we have to rise in
Yeah.
consciousness. We're, you know, the earth is, we're, you know, by and large, unconscious people. We don't understand, we don't even begin to understand the capability we have to heal ourselves.
Right. And now, and that's how we were operating. Um, like you say, with monkey brain, just on a, you know, routine level, always racing everywhere, feeling like you
Yes.
didn't have enough time, never feeling like you could get anything done, just going and really operating from an unconscious level, like you say. And
Yes.
now we've been forced to slow down, and a lot of people, this is a huge shift for them, because people that are working in offices where they've come home And this is the first time they've ever worked from home. This is the
Yeah.
first time they've ever worked remotely. It's a huge change for kids who have to be at home and can't have play dates, or teenagers like my daughter who's 17, and she can't go see her friends. She was barely ever home before
Yeah.
this, like always out doing something with friends. And
Our
now everybody's
grandchildren.
forced to be grounded, to just stay home and slow down and
Yes.
actually spend time to, think
E.
about and be, yeah, just be, which nobody was ever doing because
Yes.
everybody was racing around. And now it's your chance to decide how, if you're happy with how you were living your life, who you want to be, and who you want to be when this, when we come out of this.
Yes.
That's my perspective.
Yeah, and it's and it's also so the right side of our body is our masculine side, which is our positive polarity, which is our it's like our yang side, right? Our action side, right? And we just got the biggest adjustment, the biggest shift in the history of mankind, like November, December, January. Those were huge, huge, huge shifts. I want to say cosmic shifts. I know not everybody loves that word because we can only think of ourselves here in this incarnation on this earth, but we are a very small player. So our left side is our feminine side, which is like our intuition and our it's our negative polarity, and it's yin energy. It's more of the observer energy, and we all have that, everybody, but male, female. So it's coming into
Right.
balance, right? It's like our 11. That's why, and on November 11th, the consciousness of the earth was the highest it's ever been in recorded history. So what that spells is that more people were meditating, or more people were present, or more people had an alpha or theta brainwave state. And right now, literally, the vibration of the earth, I follow the Schumann resonance every day, so it's funny when you find these interesting things. As I mentioned, all of our well-being is contingent on our connection to the magnetic grid of the earth. So we have all these shifts happening in our body, and as you say, like at the first level, we're always doing, right? We're always on the hamster wheel. We're always doing. That was my life. Like my life was always just to get through the day, to make it to the next day. That's as awake and as conscious as I was, right? It's so, but then I had all these crazy things happen the last 4 years to prepare me, and I just basically took like 6 to 8 months off. I remember saying to my sister, I looked at her last April and I go, I have to rest my brain. And I had been through so much, I couldn't even believe I was still alive. But that's essentially what we're doing as a collective right now. So it's a really beautiful thing, is as long as we can do it, And I mean, when this forced vacation, whatever the purpose at the low level was, it doesn't matter, because one thing for sure, even if it's, people are saying, well, you're taking our rights away, and this is this and this is that, and it's going to kill the economy, and people are in fear of money, right? That's the number one. I mean, that's the easiest go-to, right? We fear money,
Right.
But how many times have we made it through things that we feared, that always turned out better in retrospect, right? There's always a bigger plan. There's always a grand plan.
Right.
And that's one thing, that I can really connect the dots between what's happening for people, between their mind, body, and spirit, and what's happening, with Earth. And there's so many amazing things going on right now. It's just, and, I think probably the US is a good example because they don't have that backbone of healthcare like we do. So many people are in fear and panic. What if I can't get my medication? What if I can't get to the doctor? But what happens when a lot of those people heal, right? Without the tools that they're accustomed to? How will they feel, right? It will rise their consciousness, right? There's no choice to rise their consciousness. When you become empowered within and advocate for yourself and your healing and your body, and even for those people that are advocating, they're fighting whatever's happening right now, that's self-love. That boils down to a higher vibration, right? It's like when we advocate for ourselves, self-love, when we set boundaries, it's all an act of self-love. And every time we love ourselves a degree more, our consciousness goes up. It can't not. It always does. So each time that happens, we expand our thinking, and we learn a little bit more about ourselves and how we fit in the world. So I see so
Right.
many moving pieces. Like there's so many exciting things happening. And I mean, the thought of us as a collective having to go through this pretty much in the whole world,
Yeah.
some areas a little more than others, and,
Yes, of course.
of course, I'm always sympathetic. I hope I'm always sympathetic and compassionate, but we choose our time to leave this earth before we ever come here. So for people who think they're in control of coronavirus and, for their loved ones and for the people that have passed, this was their soul's journey. This is not something we don't have control. I love the Long Island medium. Her example is the best. So I guess I should back up a little bit to say that I ended up going on a boat to swim with dolphins in 2011, and I ended up sitting with the Long Island medium and ended up on her show before it ever started. So that led to her first book. And I have to say, it was so surprisingly, like, it was definitely my destiny. And reading that book where she said, like, if you miss your time, it's going to happen very close within that parameter. And she uses the example of the girl who was shot at in the Eaton Center shooting here in Canada. And then she went to the States in the movie theater, and she was killed in the movie theater shooting in the States. So she was in both those. So she said she missed her time. But when you miss your time, there's no, we as souls, we choose our parents based on our soul lessons. So I think that's one of the most fundamental things. If we understood we're living this soul's journey, but they're with free will, but there's certain aspects of it that are, that are predestined for us. So this has been planned, what would happen to the earth. We didn't know in what form or fashion, but for thousands of years, there's always a divine intelligence behind everything.
Right. Yeah.
I'll just
Yeah.
throw that one out there.
No, it's true. A lot of some people have have a lot of trouble grasping that and understanding that.
And
And I
it
think,
makes sense to me too. People always
yeah,
think, I get this every day. Like, how do you know this? How do you know this? And I'm behind, or I'm, so many people say. And I said, no, we all wake up when we're meant to, and it's
right.
always divine and perfect timing. And I was one of the most unconscious people. I also won tickets and ended up sitting with Oprah in 2012. And when Deepak Chopra was presenting, he put up this slide about consciousness and contracted consciousness, people who hold their breath, people who think they control everything. And I was like, that's me. So everything kind of comes online when it's meant to. But we're meant to be these people with amnesia that are waking up. So I mean, if people can sort of walk through some of their fear and understand what's happening right now, it's a mass awakening, right? It's like the only way to get people to catch up with the vibration of the earth is to do something this drastic, even if it,
Right.
so I mean, it may not look good right now. Again, all those people that are in fear of money, the landlords are in the same position, right? For the first time in our life, it's
Yeah.
like, the real estate owners, the landlords, the employers, we're all in the same position. So
You're right. It's everyone.
yes. So what happens when everybody goes through difficult times? It's like it elevates our compassion, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's
Right.
not like a landlord can go out and say, okay, well, this person didn't pay the rent. Let's go just find someone else. It's not going to happen right now. And,
No.
the banks, look at how quickly the banks said, hey, people can have up to 6-month deferral on their mortgages, right? So at the end of the day, we're going to look back and go, oh my God, like I worried so much and I used so much of my, my energy on fear. and everything worked out okay. And by and large, everything, I can absolutely guarantee you, I will lay my life down to say by June, nobody will ever speak of this again. And I mean, like by June, it will be so distant. And you probably read, Sylvia Browne predicted this in her book, End of Days, 12 years ago.
I saw that.
Yeah. And she said the same thing. I feel like this shutdown is just going to be, it's perfect for all of us. My daughter said to me, my daughter summed it up the other day. She was like, oh my God, all I'm doing is eating, sleeping, and watching shows on the internet. And I'm like, well, okay, you got a camera for Christmas, Oh yeah, that's it does. Like, it's like, okay, well, do you remember these things called books and, going out and connecting with nature? And well, maybe going out isn't unpopular, but my personal belief is
connecting with nature, yes. Yeah. Just practicing social distancing and not going and having 20 kids jumping on the playground. That's not what they mean. But this is forcing a lot of people to get out into nature, where everybody said, I don't have time, it's
exactly,
like pushing it off again. And that was always everyone's excuse. I don't have time. Now people are going out into nature and actually walking by themselves and appreciating, noticing,
Sorry, 1 sec. I'm going to turn that noise off. I thought I had everything on lockdown.
Oh, no problem. So yeah, everybody is actually noticing the trees, noticing the birds, noticing the wildlife, and actually appreciating nature. And
yes,
that's a good thing for sure.
Yeah. There's a really esoteric lady I loved from South Africa, Judith Kusel. She can kind of read the chakras of the earth, where we can read chakras of people's, but just and she says, like, go out in nature, because nothing has a higher vibration right now, especially now with the reduction in pollution and
right.
So it's only strengthening. So I don't like to talk dimensional too much, because I don't want to lose people, but there's certain centers in the earth, like Uluru and Bali, the Giza pyramids, right? These are all like 7th dimensional sites, and they were just turned up in November, December, January. That's why so many people felt so rocked and off and brain fog, Everybody was feeling these vibrations of the earth, but that had never happened before, because we were too low in consciousness. We were just, we were not awake at all. So, and as you say, there's a group that's banding together to say, hey, we're here to help transition the light of the earth. And I feel like there's millions of us. I meet the most amazing people every week. The last 6 months, I met the dentist from the documentary Root Cause, and these group of people who, they're just the most incredible healers that look at the holistic body, and people that are, working all around the world. And so I guess, I have to step back and go, okay, I'm not intended to have fear about this. I've discovered, products. I'll give you an example. I went to a course end of January. It was like a Thai Chinese medicine healer, somebody who's here in Toronto area and does, incredible work. Actually, I sent a friend who was very late stage cancer, big tumors. The biggest tumor was 5 centimeters. And she started seeing him every day, and he totally shrunk the tumors in 3 weeks. So that's one example. And in that course, totally unexpected, a man came from Budapest who has invented this super oxygenated water. So all disease is hypoxia, which is basically like lack of oxygen, right? So our cells are disruptive, and we don't feed them enough oxygen, right? Based on what we eat, based on our environment, just at a high level. But, this man healed his daughter of pancreatic cancer in 2009, and they have this water, the super oxygenated water. There's baths now in Nevada and in Los Angeles, first places in North America. But
Oh,
they measured my oxygen levels, and then so it showed, and I don't have the screenshot yet, but I'm getting it. But it showed that I had a blockage, basically near my heart, one of my heart valves, and it was like a brown spot on the screen. Took one glass of this water, and 5 minutes later, they did the levels again. The brown spot went down to about 1/3, maybe even less, and all my oxygen levels went up. And that was 1 cup in 5 minutes. So there's so many incredible things in the world that heal
wow.
people, and as I say, I keep meeting them every week. People that blow my mind, that are just, quietly working on serving the people. So I think what's happening now is that we're coming together more as a collective, and there's so many of us. Like, when I shifted my mindset and I was in fear one day, I'm like, that's it. No, I'm not getting caught up in this crap.
Right.
The next day, it's like, as soon as you set your mind to be in a different vibration and to vibrate in love, the next day, of course, I'm seeing, all these people. I go to an amazing event in California called Secret Knock. I've met, some of the most incredible people, like the movie that's on Netflix right now, Wishman, the founder of Make-A-Wish Foundation, Frank Shankwitz. So, and I could go on about that for days in
Oh,
itself. But so Greg is offering online Secret Knock for free
oh,
on 25th and 26th. Another woman I know who, she works all over North America. She channels what she calls grandmother, but, just a benevolent wisdom of why this is happening, how we're anchoring in love. And again, I see her, so she's having a call on the 29th for free. And then she's doing by donation, by what people can afford, individual sessions. My friend who's a yoga teacher, amazing yoga teacher, does myofascial, actually two friends, they're holding online meditations for free, so all I see is
right.
so
I've,
much
I've,
good,
yeah, I've
you
seen that
know?
as well. So many people offering their services for free and holding these online workshops and everything
Yeah.
like that.
And people
I
shopping for elderly people, but the people that are truly immunocompromised, or that do have to really be careful. This is a call to them. About 3 or 4 months ago, one of my friend of a friend actually, was working with Bethel House in Caledon, and realizing there's all these people that are alone, that just need someone to sit with them, and you think, this is what we're doing on a collective level. We're checking in on our community and helping. And that was my point. So,
right
can we get into this mindset when we, at the end of this, does that
after.
go away? Or can we hold that space where, why aren't we helping? Why don't our elderly have extra hours at the grocery store and things like that?
Right. Yes. Yes. And can we just continue this afterwards? This whole feeling of community where everybody's come together and of service to one another. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. This is yeah, right. We want this to continue after everything is done. Um, I guess one thing that well, I have done myself, and I think everybody should do is to just get away from watching the news or listening to the news. You still want to be informed, perhaps listen to when the prime minister comes on and things like that, so that you know what's happening, but not be glued to the numbers of the virus and what's
Yes.
happening and things like that, because that can really lower your vibration all the time. So what would you suggest people do? Like, I know for people that have not meditated before, it's a time to start
Yeah.
checking into meditation. There's all kinds of apps, and you don't have to meditate for an hour, right?
Right.
You can just do a little bit at a time.
And that's one of the
Um,
important things you can do, actually. People
yeah,
think, oh, meditation, and I mean, I was the worst, right? The first time I would be like, what's a quiet room at yoga? But meditation is breath, which is oxygen. So what is the most important thing for our health and our well-being and our immune system? Oxygen, right? And
right.
we're not in that fight or flight mode. So people say, I can't meditate. People used to always say that to me. I'm like, if I can meditate, anybody can meditate. I am like the queen of monkey mind. I am the queen of, like fight or flight mode. I
Right.
really, the first time somebody ever said the concept of breath to me, I was 44, and I was like, oh, wow, what a different life I feel like when I'm breathing. But oxygen is the basis for our immune system. It's our vagus nerve goes from the top of our head to the base of our colon and is attached to many of our organs. And so you think if that one nerve is inflamed and not oxygenated well, it impacts our entire body. So, you know, if people need to understand it from their left brain, from a science perspective, I mean, they've done so many studies about meditation and how your brain literally changes from meditating. So, and that's what I said to my daughter. I'm like, look, just sit and be, you know, and I became an expert at that last year. Now I really understand why I had to go through what I did last year. It's just, I'm like, I got a PhD on sitting on the couch doing nothing, right? I can just sit and do nothing, not turn anything on. But to your point, like we get to choose the imprint on our minds. So, you
Right.
know, there's Gaia TV where you can sit and listen to meditations, or let's go to something easier, something free, right? It's YouTube. YouTube, you've
Yeah.
got video after video of people like Joe Dispenza. You know, you can do anything. You can learn anything, and it's all there for you. So
And
if
it's
we,
all there.
yeah.
Exactly.
So, you know, and we have to kind of rediscover ourselves, right? It's like we get so accustomed to being on this, you know, this hamster wheel. I keep, you know, that's the word, that phrase that keeps coming to me. It's like we,
Yeah, that's what it is,
well,
really.
when we jump off, especially, I don't know, as a mother, like I just, you know, like I say, my life was just about living every single day. But now, you know, we have this amazing chance. And, you know, I never look at the news, and 1% of 1% of the population owns the news too. So, you know, I think when we decide, social media is an amazing thing to me because, you know, it can be a double-edged sword, of course,
Yeah, of course.
but if there is so much on there and so many light workers, so we can get the imprint that we want just by, you know, just by sort of guiding it. And
Right.
um, I've been to, you know, world statistic sites that I thought were good, and they're changing. Like some of them, yesterday, someone posted a screenshot of what was happening with coronavirus. You know, this is a
Yeah.
pretty respectable site, and an hour and a half later, 5,000 less cases. So I think we have to
Yeah.
be discerning, right? I think we have to discern what, you know, what do I want in my space, and when, you know, and do I get to decide how I feel about this? Because we create we're creating our reality with this virus, right? It's like we can decide to feel like we're powerful enough and everything's going to end. And I can tell you right now, it's depending on us, right? The consciousness of the earth, the consciousness of us all as a collective, it's what is going to perpetuate
Right.
in this situation. It's, you know, are we rising in love, or are we going to remain in fear? You know, we have a choice in this, and
Right.
that seems too simplistic for a lot of people, but that's what it boils down to. You know, when I use the word consciousness, and I used to hate that word, but the aurora borealis is a consciousness, right? It's like a living light being. We are living light beings as a collective, as unity consciousness. So are we going to live in fear, or are we going to live in love? You know, like we get to decide the world we live in.
Right. Yeah. 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 Definitely. And we need to choose to live in love wherever possible, because that's like you say, that's the only way we're going to get out of this
Right.
situation.
The best thing people
So
can do is do what you did. It's like what lights you up, what is your community, what, you know, how you're, like you said, okay, I'm in fear, it's bringing me down, what can I
yeah,
do to
I
shift
have
it?
to get out of it.
Yeah,
Exactly. Exactly. So you have, because it just breeds more fear and everything like that. So I really felt the need to come together as a community, just sharing resources and things
yeah.
like that.
And I was
For
so encouraged when you messaged me, because I'm like, oh, there she is, you know, there's another light worker who's here to shine the light. and and there's been a lot of communications like that. So, you know, that was
yes,
a shift for me too. Like, okay, you remind yourself, hey, we're not in this alone, we're all doing this together.
right. Yeah, yeah. Okay. All right. That's great. Anything more you feel that you'd like to add to that?
I'm just an eternal optimist. I just, there's always a bigger picture, and there's always,
Yes,
it always looks better, in retrospect. So I have absolutely no doubt that we are emerging out of this bigger, better, higher vibration than we've ever been in history. Like, we are
for,
actually living in
for
the most
sure.
exciting times in the history of mankind.
Yes, I believe that as well. And I think going back to what you were saying before about people figuring out what they really like, um, this is giving you the time. This is
Yes.
giving you the time, and there's so much on the internet that there's so many people offering the free online workshops
Mhm.
and things like that. So people can spend the time to just sit and be and think of things that you like to do and things you
Yes.
used to like to do as a kid, right? Because
Yeah.
we live our life, we're told what to do, what to do, what to do. And that's how we become, I think that's how we become, like, we're more unconscious as adults than we
Yes.
ever were as
Yes,
kids, right?
yes, for sure. For sure,
Yeah,
we're
so we
more awake
need to
as
go
children.
back to being a kid and having an imagination and being able to
Yes.
dream,
Look at
being
the
able to
world through the
dream
eyes
big.
of innocence.
Yes, right. And I think that's what we need to do as well. Um, so when I put this up onto our group, you could maybe share some resources underneath
Okay.
in terms of who people might want to look to, you know, for
Okay.
meditation. I know you said Dr. Joe Dispenza, and I have listened to him. He has an incredible story of healing himself,
Yes, yes.
and I was really impressed. He also explains a lot of the science behind everything,
Yes.
at a level that people that you can understand, not too
Yes.
high,
No,
not
it's
too
true though.
technical.
That is exactly his gift, is speaking in lay terms, so that people can understand it. And I do.
Yeah,
That's my
it's
thing. I love it.
there's a science behind it all, right? It all comes down to science. The whole concept of us being energy and our energy
Right.
feeding
But it's
others and
about
everything
both.
like that.
But it's
Sorry.
about both. It's like we have the right hemisphere and the left hemisphere of our brain. It's like our logical and creative, and we're meant to
Right.
merge and use both. So
Yes.
that's, we're kind of, now we're kind of like, I love what Dr. Joe says about science. He says, shame on us scientists. We need to catch the science up with what people are actually doing in the world. So, that's the piece of the imaginative that we can work on right now if we choose.
Right. Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So, and maybe some other ones. Any other people or meditations or
Yes,
things to read up on things like that.
I have an
I'm
endless
sure.
list of
I'm
resources
sure
for
you
people.
do.
So
Plus, you said you've been to so many events as well, so you know. Okay, well, I appreciate your time talking to
thank you
us
so
and
much.
sharing all of your insights and your wisdom on this, because I think we just need to really look at it, the big picture, to see, to be optimistic, as you say, and see why this is happening and giving us the chance to become more conscious and
Right.
so, so that we come out much better
Yes.
than we are. We just have to maintain that mindset and not get sucked into the fear as well. All right.
Perfect.
Okay. Thank you so much, Lisa,
Thank you.
and thank you everyone for watching. Again, Michelle Maher here. Thank you.